Trae Young in this series has been in hell. He has not been able to be himself after having an incredible play-in and really an incredible year where we had people even saying he could be the best point guard in the league. So what happened in this series has caused them to go down 3-1, and I am presumably making this video assuming that they are going to go down and lose this series. Now, call me a hater all you want for making this before the series is even over, but I've seen everything I've needed to conclude that the Miami Heat are moving on into the next round. Let's do a series recap. And I'm trying a new intro on this channel. It's very reminiscent of Rusty Buckets, so shout out to him. He is one of my favorite content creators of all time. And I'm going to try to add my own spin to it. Once this new computer comes in, which it got delayed to Thursday, I will be able to get a little bit more experimental with things. But let's get right into this series because I feel like I've seen everything that I've needed to when it comes to talking about Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. And a lot of these series recaps are going to be pretty simple, mainly in this earlier rounds when things are kind of presumptuously done, such as the Celtics versus the Nets, where it was 4-0 sweep, and we really had to talk more about the Nets than the Celtics because the Celtics are moving on. We could talk about the next round when it comes, and it's most likely going to be the Bucks, and most likely the next video you will see is the Bulls versus, the Bucks, yeah. And we'll be talking about the Bulls a little bit, but the Heat and the Hawks, and we were kind of off on the Heat for a little bit. We'll talk about the Heat first. We'll get it done real quick. I'll talk about the Heat and everything they've done right. Jimmy Butler has played really good. Kyle Lowry is showing why he was a valuable asset to bring in. And Bam Adebayo has played fantastic. And their switching defense on a guy like Trae Young has been ridiculously good. I think being able to isolate a scorer and be able to make sure that he is as ineffective as possible has made them such a good basketball team. For obvious reasons, that's what you want to do on the basketball court. But as well, they've been able to negate one of the best scorers in NBA history. One of the most efficient guys. I'm ready to say that about Trae Young. He's ridiculous. Trae Young is a magnificent basketball player. He is an extraordinary talent. But the Miami Heat, their ability to switch and play such fantastic perimeter defense is ridiculous, and their offense has been great. Tyler Hero's had some great moments. Duncan Robinson has returned to this great shooter that we had been hoping for him to be, and he's a hard worker. If you haven't read the stories about Duncan Robinson, is where he has come from. There's a reason why he is as good of a shooter as he is, and the reason why he is still in the NBA and has gotten the massive contract. He just wasn't ready for those expectations, and now he is playing like himself, which is a dangerous asset to have a shooter like that who is able to catch fire like that. That's why Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, that's why all these great shooters in this league tend to make it pretty far in the playoffs or get these massive contracts because they're huge assets to their teams. And when Duncan Robinson wasn't playing well, the Heat didn't play as effectively on offense. Now, their defense is always going to be fantastic. I think Eric Spoelstra has done a remarkable job with this team, and to have them as the number one seed, I mean, they are doing great things. I think that the Heat could go really far in this playoffs. I think they're built to beat the 76ers if the 76ers don't choke this series. And I really do think that against the Celtics specifically, now I'm not exposing my pick between the Celtics and the Bucks, but I think if they do go against the Celtics, I mean, that game and most of those series could end up going 90 most points for both sides of the ball. I mean, defensively, it's going to be hell for both teams, but I really respect what the Miami Heat have done. All season, they are one of the most remarkable franchises in NBA history for being able to consistently put out really good rosters or really good teams with not as high assets when it comes to like high draft picks and things like that. They've been able to come in and bring into this Heat culture. Heat culture is a very real thing, and it is shown in this series. I think they've done a remarkable job, but we'll talk about the team that is losing, the team that is going home, the team that has to go back after going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Atlanta Hawks have done remarkable things over the past couple of years. I mean, getting Trae Young and to be as talented and as fantastic as he has been, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, and not to mention Clint Capella, John Collins, but there's something off with this team. Daniil Hunter as well. They've gotten rid of Cam Reddish. They have done a lot of things over the past couple of years, and one of the most remarkable things was owning New York. I hate to say it, Trae Young does own New York and Cleveland, but as well, they've been able to make the Eastern Conference Finals when no one was expecting to, and they have this really inconsistent trend with them that we've been able to see as the quantity of games that they have played together with this specific core has grown. you either get them very, very scorching hot or very, very cold. And right now they're cold because this Miami Heat defense is ridiculous. Now, moving forward, what do the Hawks do? Like with the Nets, it's very difficult to say what they can do because they really have a set core and they can only build off of role players. Whereas the Hawks, they kind of have a little bit more flexibility, not really in the assets that they have, but maybe a John Collins trade happens, maybe a Clint Capella trade. What can you add to this team that will make them a contender in the East? As much as Trae Young is playing fantastic, and a lot of people see as many of his stats could be inflated just because he's the guy that is controlling the entire offense, maybe Trae Young needs to scale back. He doesn't seem like a guy that might want to scale back and maybe get a second ball handler. Personally, I mean, it's never going to happen, but Paul George would be a perfect asset with this team, as Paul George is also a guy that fits on any roster. Klay Thompson is another thing. Like, I think they need a really, really good 3-and-D guy, not a Robert Covington, not a Nicholas Batum. I'm not saying on that role player level, but I think they need another ball handler that can play defense and shoot the three. And I mean, that's what any team wants, right? That's what anybody would want for their franchise. So it gets a little difficult. I can't really look into the future and see what free agency moves they can make. I haven't looked at their cap situation. This is kind of me just going off the top of my head on what guys they could potentially bring in. It seems like their defense needs to get a lot better. Trae Young is definitely a guy that I don't know if he can get much better defensively just based off of his frame and his size, but maybe you can surround him with a lot more defensive pieces. Maybe Clint Capella could step up a little bit more. I don't know. He's kind of hit his ceiling. It's kind of the same problem I have with the Bulls, which I'll go into detail in my next video when I do talk about the Bulls. I feel like this team has reached a ceiling and it's only going to go downhill. Not a steep downhill per se. I'm not going to say that they're going to fall off and go into the lottery, but it could be a steady drop off. Maybe they need a good head coach to come in. I don't really know. I didn't watch a ton of Hawks games. Maybe Daniil Hunter. Now that I think about it, is his name Daniil Hunter, or am I thinking of the left end for the Vikings? If that is the case, DeAndre Hunter. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I've been talking a lot of football today. It's fine. Let's keep moving. I don't want to keep editing this. But I mean, maybe they get another asset to really step up. I guess you could draft a guy, but what could you add to this Hawks team that's reasonable? I mean, obviously, if you add Luka Doncic or Paul George, maybe that makes things big difference, right? But what could you versatility-wise add to this team that would make them a contender? Because what we saw in the playoffs last year, I mean, you kind of saw the formula was you played really solid defense, a good enough defense, and then you had Trae Young go off. But what if you run into a Celtics or a Heat team like they did? And like you didn't have to go against like one of those teams. You went against a Sixers team that was obviously discombobulated with Ben Simmons and everything. You ran into a Knicks team that was not as ready as we thought they were, and then you lose in the next round. So maybe they just got lucky with the matchups they got and they capitalized on it, and that full credit to the Hawks. I don't want to discredit them for any of that playoff series because they played fantastic and they deserve all the flowers for that playoff. But maybe they just got the right matchups at the right times, and then they had to go against Giannis, which was a bulldozer in of itself. And I don't know, what could you add to this Hawks team that would make them better? Honestly, I'm asking you, type it up. If you have a free agency move, as soon as the summer hits, we're going to be talking about free agency and draft and all this stuff. Maybe there's a move that I'm not thinking of that they could add to, but to be honest, I don't know what they could do. They're kind of stuck, not because of Trae, but because of his play style and how he's been playing. He's not like Steph Curry. Let's make this very clear. Yes, he can shoot threes. He has a quick trigger. He's a smaller guard, but their play styles are very different. He's probably one of the best pick and roll guys I've ever seen in Trae Young. While Steph Curry is a guy that can move off ball a lot better than Trae, like significantly better. And I think Steph Curry this year has shown that he's a better defender than Trae right now. And honestly, as a passer, they're pretty equal in handles. Or I don't know. I think I would give Steph the edge there. And I don't want to compare the two, but their play styles are similar in the sense of they can shoot deep threes, they have a fast trigger, they're a smaller guard, and they have really solid handles. Other than that, when you actually look at how they play the game of basketball, it's very different. It's very different. One is very much ISO. I'm going to find the best scorer. I'm going to try to find the best shooter. I've got Kevin Huerter, Bogdanovic, and get them out there, and maybe John Collins can hit a three or throw up a dunk. Cool. It's very much like James Harden-esque. That's what the problem with the Atlanta Hawks is. But, I mean, it's a tough... I'm not going to hate on Trae Young. We can't discredit everything he's done this year. Same thing with Kevin Durant. Just because KD had a terrible series doesn't mean he's not a top 5 player in the league. He had a really bad series, and it hurts his legacy when we look back on it when he's being compared to these great players. But right now, I mean, you take Kevin Durant over a lot of players. Let's not front it. Let's not just lie to ourselves on it. And Trae Young is in the same space. He's in hell right now. I mean, I would not want to face PJ Tucker, switch to Bam Adebayo, switch to Jimmy Butler, and then switch to Kyle Lowry. That sounds terrible. And they could end up winning this game tonight. I'm recording this at 4:07 p.m. on Tuesday, April 26th. You'll probably see this uploaded around 8 o'clock. And the game might be over by then, and the series might be over, and the series could be extended again. And if that's the case, I'd be concerned if I were the Heat not to lose the series, just because you want to be the most healthy team, and if you keep playing games, you could end up losing a player that is really core. I don't think the Heat can afford a guy to lose right now, especially a key piece for them. That's just how I feel about this series. I think I've seen enough. I'm not really mad at anything. I'm just ready to move on, if you know. And I don't know what the Heat are going to do next series against the 76ers, most likely. But I'm very curious. I think that will be a good series. But when it comes to the Hawks, I don't know what to do with y'all, honestly. And if you are at this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. We're at 160 subscribers. I know I keep saying 1,000 by the end of the summer. I still believe it. I still believe it because who knows? Maybe when I get this laptop, we're going to get real fancy with it. Maybe I get a new camera. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen this summer. But all I can do as a content creator and someone that wants to continue to make videos is just to keep producing videos for you guys, and I'm having fun. And let me know what y'all think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. If you're at this point in the video, please leave a sub. You obviously like the content enough to get to the 12-minute mark, and thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.